It's the guy that I think is the best in the world at ground and pound. This guy drops sick bombs.
And he's tapping via crucifix. Joe Diesel Wakes wins it in his hometown.
Okay, so we're going into the amateur fight. I need you to set the stage and tell me about that fight that night.
Okay, well, so my first amateur fight, it was at the Arizona State Fair. It was copper gloves, because you have copper gloves, silver gloves, golden gloves, and so I was 11 years old, and then roundabout. And I hadn't seen my mother, so I saw my mother this first time, that one night, and then again, I didn't see her again for a long time. So I said, after my mom left, I didn't see her for 5 years. That's a mistake. I saw my mom. My mom came to the fight. So I'm already back there, a nervous wreck. And then my mom comes back there and she starts crying. I can't see my baby fight. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like that's just I just kind of was trying to bury that. I didn't know how to deal with that in the first place. So I just kind of put that in my mind. So my mom comes out and she's doing that. So I'm like, oh my God. And then, all these kids, they would have like these nice Everlast shorts, then with amateur boxing, you have to have a tank top taped in the back, your headgear, nice shoes. So all these kids they're all Mexican kids, because in Arizona there's a lot of guys from old Mexico. They come over and they box. So I was wearing a body glove tank top, like some Walmart shorts and tennis shoes. And I remember they were laughing at me, and I was like, oh man, I was just so embarrassed. And I was nervous too, because I remember them walking me down there, because in copper gloves, it's not like you get announced going to the ring. It's just like, it's like a wrestling match almost. And then I boxed, and how I fought, when I hit them before they hit me. And I remember that kid who he was making fun of me. He was making fun of me because I was white, making fun of me because of the stuff I was wearing. And again, I wasn't angry at all, but I felt better. I beat the shit out of him, and it made me feel good that shut up, So, and then my dad had everybody at his work, and give me attention for once in my life for doing something that he had that he felt, because my whole family idolized. They put fighting on a pedestal, I don't know if I told you, my grandfather told me he fought Muhammad Ali, and back then I couldn't fact check. I didn't know that. So I did a report on that, when I was like in 5th grade, and which he never even laced him up, So I became everything he said he was, and 10 times more. But, so everybody thought professional fighters were the best thing in the world. So and I was just fighting. I didn't do that. And my older brother tried. He went to my gym, and had one fight and got the shit beat out of him, and then never fought again. So. I automatically then I saw, dedication was not there with my family. So I thought I was different from my family. I saw they were very loud and bombastic at home, and all puffed up in front of when they're around the family. But when they leave, they're very meek people. They, like, if somebody confronted them, they would look down. And I'm not mean. When I'm home with my family, I'm the nicest person in the world. And some people, I'm quiet, but if someone starts a fight with me, I won't let you walk away from it. That sounds dumb. And I'm not mean at all. I don't want to fight anybody, but that's the way I am. But, and I guess that's where I am I differ from my family, because people outside my house, they treat me a certain way, and then outside of my family's house, they treat them a certain way, and they expect their families to treat them like kings, and, like, my wife, rules my house. It's so I saw at a young age what they were and how I was different from them, and I was very grateful that I was like that. And I saw, even though I was young, I saw the traits, the characteristic traits they had and that I had, and I didn't follow in my dad's footsteps, or that's because I chose a different path. But it was different. I was grateful for that, because I didn't want to be like that. After I won my fight, again, more praise, and I remember walking up to after the fight, and it was a good feeling. Like I said, the guy was, ripping on me for my dad. I couldn't imagine sending my kids out because I give my kids everything I didn't have. I couldn't imagine my dad doing that. I mean, doing that to my kids. But I remember going up and seeing my family, all my dad's work there, and then they're congratulating my dad's doing it. He's it's a narcissistic move on his part. I raised this boy. I did that. I did that. I did this in spite of him. It had nothing to do with him, and I couldn't put those words together when I was younger. But when as I analyzed things when I got older, I realized I was successful, in spite of him, despite the things he did to me. But so after that, I started to, because I was confident, but I never was a bully or anything like that. I hated bullies, because I was bullied, and then but I would get in a fight over people, people bullying somebody, and then if I wanted, some sort of attention from my father, I would, get in a fight and I would tell him about it, and he'd be like, "Oh, tell me all about it," and I would just tell him, and it was weird. It was a bad thing to connect, love to, it was a bad thing. So, my dad drank a lot, so I remember, because when my family came home, because I was alone so fucking much, it sucked. And then one time I came home from school and I was getting ready to go to the gym, and I wanted my family there because I wanted people that were my family to be around me, and then my older brother was there with his friend, and then everybody was just like, "Fuck you," I kind of not want to talk to me. I guess I was probably being an annoying younger brother, just trying to. This is my older brother. He's 18, and he's like, "Just get the fuck away from me." I'm just like, "God, what's your problem?" And I'm walking back to the hall. He gets up and he hits me, boom, 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 and just splits my eye open from here to here. I got like 16 stitches over my eye. And then, he's still to this day, he brags about that. Like, he's 18, I'm 11, and he had learned to box a little bit, so he could, he's bigger man than me. It wasn't, and he kind of cheap shot at me, to be honest with you, but and then and it was like, because it's my older brother, I immediately got emotional and started crying, like, why would you do that to me? All I wanted is just to be around you. And then so I remember, so I went to my brother hid me from my father, so my dad didn't see that. And then I went to school the next day, and because I didn't have many clothes, like I used to have nice clothes, and then the school saw this progression of me being a nice kept kid to not having nice clothes, not being kept, and then so I came to school with this huge gash over my eye that wasn't stitched up yet, and then blood on my clothes. And then I get called in the office. Obviously, I know now, they're going to call CPS, and obviously for a good reason. So they get called in the office, and it was CPS, and they go, "Joe, we've noticed," well, my name is Joey, so just so you guys know, people, like my family, they call me Joey. So like, "Joey, we've known, we used to dress a certain way, and now you wear the same clothes, they're dirty," I'm like, "Oh," then they go, "Now you have this cut over your eye that obviously needs medical attention, and you have blood all over your shirt. Like, why is that? And like, why didn't your father?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't tell my brother." And then so my dad, it was terrifying, because I walked in the office, it was a principal, 2 social workers, my father, and I walk in, my heart drops. I'm like, "Oh shit." So then and my dad's already cracked me a couple times, but nothing like that. Like, my brother hit me, not my dad. And then so, like, I was looking at my dad, and he would have like this look of like, fucking say a word, and and so I said I hit my eye on my playing basketball, so, and then they're like, "Well, why wouldn't you change your shirt?" I'm like, I hid it from my father, and this is my favorite shirt, and then so they knew it was a lie, but there was nothing they could do. And then at the end of the day, it wasn't my father that did it. So my dad took me home. He's like, "What the fuck happened?" I told him. Then nothing happened to my older brother. It was like bragging about it. And my dad's like, you cracked him hard, huh? And I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. What the fuck? Why are you doing that? And so then, like 3 weeks later, my same exact words. My dad laying on the couch, and again, I'm like a little dog when someone's home. Yeah. And then I guess I was a little much. I mean, there's no excuse for any of that. You know, I would never leave my son home for weeks at a time. You know, and my dad's drinking and watching TV, and then says something like, "Leave me alone." I'm like, God, what? To my second oldest brother, I'm like, what's wrong with him? He gets up and I sit down. He uppercuts me, boom, right in the face, just bust my nose, bust everywhere. I'm just like what the fuck? I mean, that was the first time like even in sparring all stuff, I never got my bell rung. First time I rung my bell, and then the first time he actually hit me that hard, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then so my middle brother showed some empathy. I'm like, he's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. And then I needed a bunch of stitches on my lip, and he didn't even check if I was okay. And I cleaned myself up as best as possible. But you know, when Robbie Lawler split his lip when he fought, it was split like that. And so I went to school, and same thing happened, you know. And they're like, and I just said I didn't have a bloody shirt on, but I had a black eye, my lips were, you know, just smashed in, and then they're like, so they separate me from my father, and they're like, is something going on? I'm like, no, nothing's going on, nothing. And then so again, they let me go. So they have an open case going, and then 2 weeks later, I'm walking with my dad to the gas station because he's going to get beer, and then there was a girl who I went to school with behind us, and he was trying to ask me a question about me doing something at home. I didn't understand. I'm dyslexic, so some things were hard for me. You know, I actually have a high IQ. They just thought I was almost borderline retarded because I couldn't get certain things. But I was trying to explain to my dad why I couldn't do something, and then he grabs me by my hair and he's shaking me and he throws me out into traffic. Like not meaning for cars to hit me, but this girl behind me saw it, and then I hit my head and cut my head open, and then he pulls me up, and then we go and we come back, and then all of a sudden a cop car pulls up, and then another cop car pulls up, and they throw my dad down and arrest him, and then they're like, we have a witness stating this, that, and this and that. I'm like, no, he didn't do anything. Then I go, we were walking, I tripped and fell and hit my head, and I lied for my dad. And then so they let him go, and he apologized for that. And it was you know, he was drunk, and you know, here I am, I'm making battered housewife excuses, but it's, you know, he was just, you know, my mom left him, so he was going through a hard time as well. You know, he did not do the things he should have been done. I mean, should have been taking care of his son, because at that age, when your parents get divorced at that age, if not handled correctly, it's more traumatic than a parent dying. You know, it's very bad. So, anyways, that happened, and then, you know, my life was just topsy-turvy like that, you know, all the way until I got a little bit of control in my life, and then when I started wrestling, and then because I kept going back and forth, and then at that point I started steering away from my father and steering away from people in my family, and I started making more friends, and then I was getting better at wrestling. I started because I won Arizona State Golden Glove title when I was 14, and then I was in 8th grade. So then I wanted to take a break from that and concentrate on wrestling a little bit. So I did that, and then they asked me to come because on varsity you do wrestle-offs for whatever weight class you're in. And when I was in 8th grade, I was 6 feet tall, same height as I am now, and I was 171 pounds, and I was built. And so I challenged a kid that was 171, and I beat him. And then I ended up placing 6th in state in 8th grade. And so which is, I didn't know, it was really good. And then so the coach started, you know, paying more attention to me. And then next year as a freshman, he saw how my life was, and so he took more of an interest in me in there. And then he, you know, the places where my father lacked, you know, I looked for him for guidance. So he was huge person that filled a big void in my life.